Welcome to Neo and Jiho Part 32. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. 2 parts will be uploaded tomorrow. 2 days later, the architecture department was busy. Printers ran, people walked with rolled drawings, and emails kept coming. Neo, the new manager, sat at her desk. She was focused, calm, and firm. Some people were still getting to know her, but many already respected her. 2 architects came into her office with worried faces. They explained in simple English that a project had been stuck for 8 months. The measurements never aligned. The layout kept failing. Neo listened without interrupting. She stood, took a pen, and looked at the drawing. She didn't use a ruler. She adjusted angles, shifted spaces, and corrected the proportions with steady lines. It took her 10 minutes. They scanned the new draft into the system. For the first time in months, the software showed no red alerts. Every section matched. Everything fit. Both men stared at the screen, then at Neo. One bowed slightly. "Manager Neo." "Perfect." Neo smiled. "Not perfect, just careful." Word spread quickly. The new manager was talented and kind. Neo tried to learn names and faces, but it was hard. Many people looked similar to her, and she didn't want to mix them up. Still, she kept trying. She stayed polite and professional, and she helped whoever came. Her phone buzzed, but she ignored it and moved to the next file. That was when the glass door slid open. Jiho stepped in. He looked calm, but his eyes held a quiet energy. He had planned this moment. Timing mattered. Neo raised an eyebrow, teasing. "You're not supposed to disturb me when I'm rescuing projects." Jiho smiled. "Then don't fix in 10 minutes what took 8 months. She laughed. "Who told you that?" "Your department talks," he said softly, resting his hand on her desk. His voice lowered. "We need to talk. Investors. Jordan." Neo's smile faded. "They were coming next week. What changed?" "They extended," Jiho said. "But it's not canceled. They shifted. We'll meet them on the island instead." Neo blinked. "Island?" "We're flying out this evening," he said. "So sudden?" she asked. "What about your grandmother?" "I spoke to her this morning," Jiho replied. "She's fine. She supports it." Neo studied him. "You love surprises?" Jiho let out a small laugh. Underneath, his heart was beating fast. This was the first step. Tonight would not be about investors. Tonight would begin the rest of his life. Jiho's study was quiet. The kind of quiet that helps a man hear his own heart. Papers were stacked neatly on one side of the desk. A small velvet ring box sat in the center like a secret. The curtains were half drawn. The city lights rested on the glass like soft stars. Insu came in without knocking. He always did that here. This room was half his second home. "Are you hiding from the world," Insu said, "or from a question with one knee?" Jiho tried to smile, but his fingers were tight around the ring box. "From dropping this," he said. "I keep opening it and closing it like a nervous teenager." Insu pulled a chair and sat opposite him, elbows on his knees, eyes bright. "Let me see it again." Jiho opened the box. The ring caught the lamplight and threw a small, steady fire across the desk. Insu whistled in a low breath. "She will faint." "Please don't say that," Jiho muttered. "If she faints and I faint, they will call the doctor before she says yes." Insu laughed. "Then do not faint. Rule 1. He leaned back, still grinning. The grin softened into something warmer. "Brother, I am proud of you." Jiho didn't look up right away. He slid the box shut and set it down carefully. "I am not proud. I am afraid. This is the only question I care about. Everything else can fail. Not this." Insu's voice went gentle. "You chose the right person. That is why you are afraid. It matters." He pushed his chair back and stood. "Show me the kneel," he said, pointing at the floor. "If you fall like a tree, the ring will fly into the bookshelf and we will spend the night crawling." Jiho stared at him. "You are a bad friend." "A good brother," Insu corrected. "Practice." Jiho stood, shook out his hands, and lowered himself to one knee. He tried to do it slow, but his knee still made a small thud on the carpet. "Not bad," Insu said, "but keep your back straight. Don't lock your jaw, and breathe. Also angle the box toward her, not toward your own chest." Jiho adjusted the angle. Like this? Exactly, Insu nodded. Now the words. Jiho stayed on one knee, eyes on the empty space, as if Neo stood there. He spoke low. Neo, you changed my life. You made me softer and stronger at the same time. I want to build every day with you. Will you marry me? Insu rubbed his forearms with a fake shiver. Even I almost said yes. Jiho stood up quickly, embarrassed and smiling. Stop it! Keep it simple like that, Insu said. Your voice already carries the rest. They sat again. Insu reached for the glass of water on the side table and passed it to him. Jiho sipped and set it down. Tell me the plan, Insu said. Everything. Jiho took a breath. Tomorrow morning, you and Tumi fly first. You reach the island by midday. You check the pavilion, the lights, the table, the music. Keep it simple. I do not want a stage. I want a promise. Insu nodded. Done. Tumi is already excited. She will pretend not to be, but she is. A small smile touched Jiho's mouth. She gave me the dress idea without knowing. I sent it to the designer. The dress will be waiting in... The hum of the aircraft was steady, almost like a quiet song wrapping the cabin. In first class, everything felt calm, removed from the world below. Tumi adjusted the soft blanket across her knees and leaned slightly toward Insu. The divider between them was lowered, so the small gestures, her hand brushing the edge of his sleeve, his arm resting close enough for her to feel the warmth, felt natural, unspoken. They had been talking since the plane lifted off, their voices low, carrying the ease of two people who had begun to trust silence as much as words. Yet today, the silence didn't last long. They were both still wrapped in the memory of yesterday. Tumi turned her face toward him. Yesterday was unforgettable, she said softly. I never thought I'd feel something that strong just by visiting children. Insu's eyes softened. The orphanage, he said, nodding. Yes, it stays with you, not just because of the children, but because of what it reminds us, how precious care is. She smiled, her eyes bright with memory. The way they ran to you when you stepped out of the car, like they already knew who you were. Like family, they are family, he said simply. Blood isn't the only way to belong. His voice was calm, weighted with truth. I have built businesses, yes. I manage one of Jiho's 5 companies. People look at that and think it is my greatest pride, but those children remind me, wealth is empty if it doesn't build someone else's tomorrow. Her breath caught at the depth in his tone. He wasn't boasting, not even trying to impress her. He was speaking from somewhere rooted deep. That is what struck me, she said. The way Jiho spoke to them, telling them they had a future, that they mattered. It was powerful. It almost made me cry. She paused, then added, I've always wanted to do something like that back home. In my homeland, many children live without parents. I always told myself that one day, if I could, I would help them have a place of safety, a place to belong. Insu turned his head fully toward her. His gaze held hers, steady and warm. That dream of yours, he said, brings us closer than you know. To give meaning to another person's life. It is the most human thing we can do, and it is the most lasting. Her lips parted slightly. She wasn't expecting the weight of his words, nor the way they seemed to reach into her. For a moment she didn't answer, just let herself feel the truth in what he said. Then she whispered, That's what makes you different. You don't speak about money as if it is the goal. You speak about it as if it is a tool for something greater. His eyes softened, but his smile was small, modest. Because it is. Money can buy walls, but it takes love to build a home. Tumi leaned back, letting his words settle over her. She turned to look at the window, the clouds endless, sunlight breaking over their edges. Then she laughed softly, shaking her head. And to think all of that was happening yesterday, and Neo has no idea what is waiting for her today. Insu chuckled, the sound low. She doesn't, he said. That's what makes it beautiful. Jiho has planned this moment for so long, and she is walking toward it without knowing. He looked thoughtful for a second. It is not just a proposal. It is a story they will tell their children one day. Tumi's eyes sparkled. "Do you think she will cry?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "And Jiho will too, though he will pretend not to." They both laughed, the sound soft and warm, carrying no mockery, just joy. The laughter faded into a silence that felt alive, not empty. Their shoulders brushed again, and this time, Tumi let her hand rest on the armrest beside his, close but not touching. She could feel her pulse quicken, not from nerves, but from the closeness of him. Insu noticed. He hesitated, not out of doubt, but out of respect. "Tumi," he said, his voice quieter now. "May I tell you something?" "Yes," she whispered. "When I saw you among those children yesterday, the way you bent down to listen, the way your eyes softened, I thought, this is not just a woman I like. This is someone who could share a life of giving, of building, of meaning. And I wanted that life more than I knew before." Her heart beat louder in her chest. She swallowed, her throat dry. "Insu, don't answer now," he said quickly, not wanting to overwhelm her. "I only wanted you to know what I felt." She looked at him for a long moment. Their eyes held, steady, searching. And then, as though it had been waiting in the silence all along, the moment came. They leaned in slowly, not rushed, as if both of them knew this memory deserved time. Their lips met, softly, gently. It was not hungry, not rushed. It was steady, warm, full of promise. When they pulled back, they stayed close, foreheads touching. She laughed faintly, almost in disbelief. "That just happened." "Yes," he said, his voice low, and it felt right. She touched his hand at last, their fingers intertwining. His thumb brushed over her hand, steady, calm and certain. For the rest of the flight, they stayed close, speaking in low voices about small things, smiling at the memory of yesterday's children, dreaming quietly of what could come tomorrow. The kiss lingered not just on their lips, but in their minds, a new beginning written gently in the sky above the clouds. The flight touched down long after the city lights had been left behind. When the wheels of the aircraft kissed the runway, it was already night. The island's airport was small, quiet, and almost hushed as though the sea itself asked for silence. Neo looked out through the window, her breath fogging the glass faintly. Beyond the runway lights, she could see nothing but darkness stretching toward the horizon, broken only by the faint glimmer of waves that caught the moonlight. "It feels different here," she whispered. Jiho leaned closer, his voice warm in the quiet. "Because it is. This place is not about noise. It's about listening to the sea, to yourself, to us." The words settled deep in her chest. She didn't answer, but when she turned, her eyes lingered on him longer than usual. He carried himself with a calm that seemed steady, yet beneath that calm she could feel his anticipation, something unspoken, waiting. The moment they stepped out of the plane, the warm salt air rushed around them, carrying the scent of the ocean. Neo closed her eyes and drew in a deep breath. But the sea had a way of erasing distances, of reminding her that every shore carried the same heart. Jiho reached for her hand. "Let's go, they're waiting." Their car, a sleek black vehicle provided by the resort, glided quietly along the narrow road. Through the window, Neo could only see the faint outlines of palm trees leaning against the night sky. The moon hung low, its reflection broken by waves that never ceased moving. Her heart beat steadily, filled with the softness of the night, the closeness of Jiho sitting beside her. She didn't know why he was quieter than usual. Perhaps he was tired from the flight. Perhaps he was simply letting the silence carry them. When they reached the villa, it was already glowing. Small lanterns lit the path from the car to the entrance, swaying slightly in the ocean breeze. The villa stood like a quiet guardian by the shore, its windows spilling golden light onto the sand. Neo paused at the doorway. "Jiho," she said softly. "This place." She didn't finish her sentence. She didn't need to. Her eyes carried her wonder, her gratitude. Jiho smiled faintly. "I wanted you to see it first like this, at night. Tomorrow you will see the ocean in full, but tonight, it belongs only to us." Inside, the air was cool, scented faintly with flowers she could not name. The villa had been prepared carefully. A soft rug lay across the polished floor, the curtains drawn to allow the moonlight to filter through. A small table had been set with a fruit basket and chilled water, untouched, waiting. And then Neo noticed something. In the corner of the room, by the wide dressing mirror, there was a stand. Upon it, carefully arranged, was a dress. She stopped walking, her eyes drawn to it. She turned to Jiho. "What is this?" He hesitated for only a moment, then answered calmly. "Just something I asked them to prepare. Nothing more." "Nothing more?" she asked, tilting her head, her smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "Nothing more than a piece of tomorrow," he said gently. She wanted to ask him again, to press him for more. But there was something in the way he spoke, something in his eyes that told her she would have to wait. Neo turned back toward the stand, her heart beating faster. She didn't touch the dress, didn't even step closer. She simply looked at it, knowing somehow that it was not just fabric. It was a promise. While Neo freshened up, Jiho stepped out of the room to speak with the organizers. 2 staff members waited discreetly in the villa's outer lounge. Their voices were low, their hands folded politely. "Everything is set," Jiho said, his tone firm but quiet. "The arrangements for tomorrow. Keep them simple. I don't want extravagance. I want sincerity." "Of course, sir," one of them replied. "We have prepared according to your instructions. The room, the setting by the shore, the timing, all is ready. Nothing will disturb the moment." Jiho nodded. He closed his eyes for a moment, pressing his thumb against his temple. His mind felt restless, like the sea outside. He had built empires, managed crises, stood unshaken before people of power. Yet tonight, all his confidence seemed to narrow down to one question. Would she say yes? Back inside the room, Neo had changed into something lighter, comfortable for the night. She was sitting at the edge of the bed, brushing her hair slowly. When Jiho entered, she looked up at him with a smile that quieted the noise in his mind. "You looked serious," she said softly. "Is everything okay?" He crossed the room and sat beside her. "Everything is perfect. I just want tomorrow to be what it should be." Neo tilted her head, studying him. There was something in his eyes she couldn't quite name. "Jiho," she said, her voice tender. "You don't have to carry everything alone. Even if tomorrow isn't perfect, it will still be ours. And that is enough." Her words disarmed him as they always did. He reached for her hand, holding it gently. "Neo," he murmured, "do you know how rare you are? You speak like that, and the world stops for me." She laughed softly, her cheeks warming. "Then I'll keep speaking like that." They sat together for a long time, the night stretching around them, the sound of the waves filling every silence. They didn't need to speak much more. The villa itself seemed to hold its breath for what was coming, the lanterns outside flickering faintly in the wind.